Hello everyone, this is another video on the Occupational Specialism for the Digital Production Design and Development course. So we're looking at our proposal for our software solution, and in this section we're going to be looking at the key performance indicators and user acceptance criteria for our proposed solution. Okay, so first of all, just a little bit on what these are and how they're different, because they could sound very, very similar. Now, the key thing to think about when you're looking at key performance indicators is the word performance. Okay, so I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller for you. So the whole point of key performance indicators is a measure of functionality and performance. Okay, hence the word performance. So what that might look like in our system is it can be done from both a system perspective as well as a user perspective, and there's a number of things we want to look at here. So in particular, we're going to have a look at the responsiveness of our solution, so our web application. So these are essentially sections we could have here. So we could have a section called system, and we will come back and do user one later. So we're looking at the responsiveness. So that could be things such as page load time. It could be things like browser compatibility. And it could also be things like responsiveness. I know I put responsiveness there already, but how responsive it is on different applications, so on a phone versus on a tablet versus on a laptop, on a desktop, etc. So that's responsiveness. We also want to look at the load handling. Okay, so naturally when we launch, depending on what the company do, there might be a massive influx of traffic. So we want to measure the uptime or the downtime, so to speak. One obviously you're hoping to be higher, the other one you're hoping to be lower. So downtime, uptime and downtime. And others you want to be measuring in terms of here is the number of visitors per, and that's another thing we'll come to, the frequency we're going to measure it, and also the crash rate, so whether there are any crashes happening as well. And then also we've got kind of linked to this is the reliability as well. So they can kind of come together. So that's a system perspective. So another thing we want to monitor is the user side of things, because the health advice group are going to be very interested in how well this system that we are developing for them is going to be performing. Okay, so in that respect, it's going to be the number of new visitors, or like visitors. You'll also want to look at returning visitors as well. If any of you use YouTube, obviously you're on here, you can think of it as like YouTube Studio as well. So the information it gives you on there, how long people, time spent. So if you've got people visiting your web application and they're leaving after 5 seconds, there's something's gone very wrong there. So time spent on the application. You'll obviously have the number of accounts created. Obviously crucial to yours as well is the risk assessment bookings. So number of risk assessment bookings. But the key factor behind this is that it has to be something that's measurable. Okay, so it can't be a fluffy goal like we want to increase the number of people on the site. It has to be something measurable. So we want the number of new visitors, and then you want to get the frequency that's going to be measured. Okay, and we'll present it in that way. So I might say that my KPI, excuse me, we'll get it. So my KPI measure, very, very good there, is the number of new visitors, and then I'm going to measure this monthly over a month. Okay, so that will be one of my KPIs, and I'll just carry on listing those out. So in our document, I'm going to switch back over to our draft document now. So back on our document, first thing I'm going to do is adding a new heading. Make sure we keep that in the heading style so we can update our table of contents in there. Now, in terms of how you can present this, very similar to the others, that you could do it in a table, you could do it as just text. I would recommend keeping sections on here. So I'm going to do a section here called System, and another section here called User. Oh, got to start a bit in it. Users. And then I'm going to, on the normal system here, have KPI, and then I'm going to have for the system number of bugs reported, and then the measure. Oops. And then the measure will be the number of bugs reported through the web application on a rolling monthly basis. Okay, so I'm going to measure that every month. Okay, and you can change that and update that. As we know, the software development lifecycle is a cycle, so things will keep going on and changing, and likely your KPIs will change as well. Then I might have a second one, so KPI. Still got that involved? Uptime of the application. So measure the percentage of time that the application has been live on the web on a rolling monthly basis. So you see here I've stated what I'm measuring, which is a percentage of time, and the frequency with which I'm going to measure that. So this one is a number of bugs reported, and the measure of time I'm going to be changing. So some things you might want to record more frequently, other things maybe less so. It all depends, okay? And so you'll probably want to aim for sort of around 10 per section, roughly. But you just want to give the examiners an idea that you are thinking of the whole solution here, and just making sure that all of the things that you report are measurable things, and you've got the metric that you are going to measure. So either a percentage, a number, whether you want it to be an increase or a decrease, etc. Okay, so that's what you're going to do for that one, and I will again give you some examples for the users as well. So I'm going to have the number of new users of the web application. Again, measure. So the I might do this as a percentage increase of new users to the web application on a rolling monthly basis. And then I might have another one which is number of new registered accounts on the web application, and the measure of that one is going to be the number of new accounts created on a rolling monthly basis. So you get the idea now of how this works. So key performance indicator is exactly that. It's a measurable indicator of the performance of the system as a whole, and it needs to be given a state of what you're going to be measuring and the frequency that you're going to be measuring it. Okay, so that's key performance indicators. Let's go over now to the user acceptance criteria. Okay, so we've covered the key performance indicators. Now the user acceptance criteria, there's a couple of things it's not, and we're going to go over those a little bit now, but the key word is the acceptance here. So these are going to be the features and functions that the user can complete to make the functionality and those features correct or working properly. So the criteria that needs to happen, and the user needs to accept it working in order to be complete. But what it isn't is it is not a test plan, not a test plan, and it is not your user story rehashed again. It does, however, take elements of those. So I'm going to cast your mind back here. I'm going to go across here, and we're going to go back to our user story. So remember, we're using an agile development framework here, okay? So we're focusing on the user journey. So our user stories, if you can remember, use our 3 cards here. So as a, I want, so that, okay? And you'll remember that we created a range of stories based on a range of different scenarios, okay? So these do play into this. So one of the things we may have done is, as a asthma sufferer, I want to see the air quality data where I live so that I can decide whether to go out. Okay, so these are things and features and functions that our users are going to want to make them keep coming back and using it, and to make them have a successful journey with us. Okay, so we're carrying on from that now. So the user acceptance criteria follows a new set of that. Okay, so the user acceptance criteria uses the following. I can spell criteria. So this time it is given, when, and then. Okay, so these are going to form the structures of our next section. So let's go through an example, shall we, using this air quality data scenario. So I might say, given I am on the air quality, because remember we're doing this from the perspective now that it's already been made. I am on the air quality data panel. When I enter my location into the panel, then I will see air quality data for that location. Now, as you can see here, it's very, very similar to the journeys and the stories we're looking, but this time it's very much more specific to the features and functions rather than particular users. So I'm not focusing on this on an asthma sufferer. I'm thinking about the things that the users are going to click on, that they're going to use or want to see. Okay, so things that you're going to cover on here will be logins, if you're going to have that. Now, this is where I say it's not a test plan, because you do want to cover in this a successful and an unsuccessful login. Okay, so you might have, given I am on the login area, when I enter an incorrect password, then it will tell me my password is incorrect. But what you don't want to do, which you will do in a test plan, is start using valid, invalid, and erroneous data and run series of tests like that. It's a little bit more simple. You just want to have almost like the two options, okay, for that. So so that's one option you could do. You could do logins, and you're going to do valid. I just said the word valid and not invalid. Valid and forgotten password, for example. Other things you might want to test are the articles. So when you do a search on a keyword, it brings up articles that are linked to that keyword. Again, like I've just covered, you might have the weather and the air quality. So this is very much features on the user, hence the term user acceptance criteria, and their journey on the application. Other things you'll have is risk assessment. And you may also, depending on whether you're going to include it, would be the accessibility panel. And you may also have the personalized health data, which again will kind of be linked to the login one. So let's go back to our document again and see what that might look like, shall we? Back on our document. So I'm going to add a new heading again, this time calling it user acceptance criteria. Okay, and then this time I'm going to do it as a table, but you can just do it as a written one. So I'll show you it as a table first, just because I find this quite easy to follow. So I'm going to add a table. I'm going to add 4 columns and just a series of rows. And then the first heading is going to have scenario, and then I'm going to have given, when, and then in here, okay? And I'm just going to make that bold so we know that's a heading. So my first scenario is going to be get weather data. And then I'm going to say given I am on the weather data page, when I enter my location, then I will see the weather in my location. Yeah, so nice and easy one there. And then you might have scenario successful user login, given I am on the user login page, when I enter a valid username and password. Now this could vary depending on what you're doing. In my case, I'm going to get it to go to the profile page rather than you could get it to redirect to the home page or just return the user back to the page they were on. Then I will be taken to the user profile page. Okay, and you're just going to keep building it up like this. Another way you can do it is written a bit like we did with the key performance areas. So I'm going to have scenario, spell scenario, and just do the same thing again. Okay, so I might have unsuccessful user login, and then I will have given I am on the user login page, when I enter an invalid username and password, then I will be shown a error message or forgotten password link, whatever you want to go for your solution. Okay, so that's how we're going to build up. And again, the number you have is down to you, but I would at least aim for 10 scenarios. You don't have to cover every single thing that could go right or wrong. That is what the test plan's for later on. These are the functions and the features that you're going to design that are going to make your system work for the user at the end of the day. So this is focused more on the user. So hopefully this has been helpful for you to understand how this works. And if you need any further help with this, just drop me a message below and I will be sure to get back. All right, good luck.